So let's update the understanding of white moderate before we get to this back to MLK's voice here. The white moderate is no longer only white. The people preventing liberation, preventing the furthest, who are preventing the most potent, the most vigorous attack on the system, in Martin Luther King's case, was white moderates. In our case, it's progressives. So, I mean, just look at the left. If you say the left, would you say people like RBN, that's the more radical left? And then wouldn't you say corporate Democrats? Wouldn't you say progressives are somewhere in between the radical left and corporate Democrats? Wouldn't that make them the middle, the moderate? So that's the phrase I think should be updated. To update, I'm sorry, that's the word I think should be updated in the phrase, because that makes this more applicable to today. Let me see, where was I with my notes? The word moderate should be changed, or should be updated to the word progressive. And then I also said, let me see. So we're really just taking out moderate. Now, in the speech, in the letter, I keep saying speech, but in the letter from Birmingham jail, when he referenced the Negro, replace that with worker. So replace white moderate with progressives, and replace Negroes with workers when we listen to Martin Luther King here. Okay, so let's listen.
Obedience. In our own nation, the Boston Tea Party represented a massive act of civil disobedience. We should never forget that.
1 second, I don't hear nothing. Let me refresh this video just in case something's wrong here. Let's see.
Get out in the open where it can be seen and dealt with.
Oh, it's my headset that went out.
Like a boil that can never be cured, so long as it is covered up.
All right.
But must be.
So it was my headset that went out.
Be open with all its ugliness too.
So let's move back here.
We should never forget.
And now, let's listen.
That everything Adolf Hitler did in Germany was legal, and everything the Hungarian freedom fighters did in Hungary was illegal. It was illegal to aid and comfort a Jew in Hitler's Germany. Even so, I am sure that had I lived in Germany at the time, I would have aided and comforted my Jewish brothers. If today I lived in a communist country where certain principles dear to the Christian faith are suppressed, I would openly advocate disobeying that country's anti-religious laws. I must make two honest confessions to you, my Christian and Jewish brothers. First, I must confess that over the past few years I have been gravely disappointed with the white moderate. I have almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Negro's great stumbling block in his stride toward freedom is not the white citizens' counselor or the Ku Klux Klaner, but the white moderate, who is more devoted to order than to justice.
Now, let's listen to that last maybe 20 seconds, and we're going to replace, again, white moderate with progressive, and we're going to replace Negro with worker. So let's go back a little bit.
And gravely disappointed.
Oops, a step more right there.
I must make two honest confessions to you, my Christian and Jewish brothers. First, I must confess that over the past few years I have been gravely disappointed with the white moderate.
Over the past few years, we've been gravely disappointed with the progressive Democrat.
I have almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Negro's great stumbling block in his
I've almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the workers' greatest stumbling block
stride toward freedom is
for their stride towards freedom, their stride towards liberation, their stride towards non-exploitation
not the white citizens' counselor
is not the Trump supporter
or the Ku Klux Klaner,
or the Proud Boys,
but the white moderate.
but the progressive. You see how that works? You tell me that doesn't fit perfectly. What have we seen over the last 2 years with the progressive Democrat? But failure after failure. We can debate whether intentional or not, whether there's some sort of sabotage or they're just too naive. But have we not been gravely disappointed in the progressive Democrat? John, love the super chat. Jonathan, the same way we shouldn't use Americans to refer to U.S. citizens, let's not call leftists those center progressives. You're right. And that is something slip of the tongue that just because it's so, it's such common in our conversation, I do say that sometimes. But you're right. I do agree with that. So now let's continue to listen. Let's continue to listen. What, like I said, you're using the word progressive in place of white moderate, and change use instead of Negro, change that to worker. So let's continue.
Who is more devoted to order than to justice.
I'm gonna since I've been pausing it, I'm gonna move back just a little bit so you can get a whole cohesive thought here.
Must confess that over the past few years I have been gravely disappointed with the white moderate. I have almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Negro's great stumbling block in his stride toward freedom is not the white citizens' counselor,
not the Trump supporter,
Ku Klux Klaner,
not the Proud Boys,
but the white moderate,
but the progressives,
who is more devoted to order than to justice.
But is more devoted to order than injustice. Have that not been completely revealed over the last 2 years with such things like forced to vote, such things as pushing back on critiques of the precious progressive squad or the progressive Democrats? Like, it's been clearly shown.
That the Negro's great stumbling block in his stride toward freedom is not the white citizens' counselor or the Ku Klux Klaner, but the white moderate, who is more devoted to order than to justice.
More devoted to order than to justice. Another thing we're going to be doing, and I think I have already started this, is we're going to be talking about, do the characteristics or the traits of the white moderate, in our case, the progressives, of the white moderate, do you see any of those traits that overlap with the progressive Democrat. Here's the first one I want to put as a trait: devoted to order rather than justice. Does that ring true for anyone? Would you say that's an accurate description? I mean, from not saying don't criticize your favorite politician so much to not wanting to challenge Nancy Pelosi. So this bullshit story with the breaking a strike. Let's back it up a few seconds and continue.
And gravely disappointed with the white moderate. I have almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Negro's great stumbling block in his stride toward freedom is not the white citizens' counselor or the Ku Klux Klaner, but the white moderate who is more devoted to order than to justice, who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice, who constantly says, I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I cannot agree with your methods of direct action.
Isn't that exactly what was told and said? Oh, yeah. We want Medicare for all. But I don't agree with your tactics. Isn't that what the reformists, the pseudo left, the NATO left says all the time? Because they say, why are you critiquing us so hard? We're allies because we have the same goal. I just don't agree with how you want to get there. David Sirota says it all the time. Theory of change is what David Sirota says. Now, let's go to the graphic because I'm there. My show, I don't plan it. I just go with what I'm feeling. I'm feeling like I want to cover the graphic. Since I mentioned David Sirota, I remember the graphic here. So we have David Dole, we have Jordan Sheraton, we have David Sirota, Kyle Kulinski, Crystal Ball on the left. And then on the right, we have Ryan Grimm, Anna Kasperia, Emma Vigeland, Sam Cedar. We can also add Cenk Uygur on here, and many more that can be in this lane. So if you are the white moderate, or you are a supporter of the white moderate, or you prop up the white moderate, and I can say everybody on this picture has been there or is there currently. Let's get back to the talk.
Who paternalistically believes he can set the timetable for another man's freedom, who lives by a mythical concept of time.
This is the part that makes RBN and myself so upset. And the rage you see in this content about this progressive Democrat strategy is like, you're living fine and everybody else has to go through pain. Like a worker's liberation is based on your comfortability. Like it's based on your timetable. That's the right word. Just like he says, based on your timetable off some mythical time. That's a great phrase, mythical concept of time. Oh, next time I'll get a committee assignment. We just need to vote in some more progressives. Don't they tell us that all the time? We just need to vote in some more progressive. That's all. Time. This mythical concept of time. Let's continue.
And who constantly advises the Negro to wait for a more convenient season.
Constantly advises the worker to wait for a more convenient season. That's exactly what's happening. Advising a worker against forced to vote. Yes, love that. Mythical concept of time. If Aaron, if you're watching, we got to put that on a graphic. Mythical concept of time. Maybe with the same graphic, similar graphic, but just change out the white moderate, the mythical concept of time, and just change it a little bit. Because I love that. That absolutely describes the progressive Democrat strategy. Taking a whack at this again. So absolutely. Let's people in the comments making some funny comments here. People in the comments. All right, so I see these super chats. Let me get to some of these super chats. Because I promise I will keep checking to make sure I don't skip any. Because once they go way up, like an hour in, there's no way I can get to that. Mr. Fly the workers' greatest stumbling block in their stride to non-exploitation is not the Trump supporter, but the progressive. It's not. The Trump supporter doesn't have the power. The Trump supporter is not telling us now is not the right time. So absolutely. Thank you for the super chat. Where is Mike F? Who is Mike? Am I missing something here? Oh, Mike Figueredo. Oh, gotcha. Do I have content of him? I don't think I have content of him, Mr. Fly. And that's who you were referring to, Mr. Fly. Yes. Sorry, I forgot to hit the mute. I see your point of having two guests. I just wanted to get your perspective. RBN speaking with Marianne Williamson is what needs to happen. I personally can't wait. Yes, and that no, I mean, you would love to have these conversations with multiple people. I would love to have a conversation. Who would I like to have well, it's a lot of people that's no longer here, but I would love to hear a conversation with somebody like Shama and Jank Uger, somebody like Shama and Sam Cedar. You notice they never bring her on. Other left channels bring her on. They don't bring her on. I mean, they haven't in a while. I think she was on a long time ago. She was on. So yeah, I think did I get to all of them? Not this one. Love RBN for supporting Rage Against the War Machine. Yes, Sabby will be there. Nick. Oh, I don't know if Nick is gonna go. He was. We were talking about it. So all right. So I think I got all the super chats I had saved. So let's continue. Let's continue. Let me make sure nothing came through while I was reading it. No. All right. So let's continue with the video here.
Shallow understanding from people of goodwill is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will. Lukewarm acceptance is much more bewildering than outright rejection. I had hoped that the white moderate would understand that law and order exist for the purpose of establishing justice, and that when they fail in this purpose, they become the dangerously structured dams that block the flow of social progress. I had hoped that white moderates would understand that the present tension in the South is a necessary phase of the transition from an obnoxious negative peace in which the Negro passively accepted his unjust plight to a substantive and positive peace in which all men will respect the dignity and worth of human personality. Actually, we who engage in nonviolent direct action are not the creators of tension. We merely bring to the surface the hidden tension that is already alive.
So we didn't bring the tension by causing force to vote. The tension was already there. We just brought it to the surface.